programmatic optimization. So a big round of applause for Joe. Take it away, sir.
Alrighty. Well, super excited to kick things off. 8 a.m. presentation slot on the first day is always killer, but I promise it's going to be so riveting you won't ever need coffee again. I did promise some people that I would sing some Journey this morning, but my voice isn't quite warmed up, so I'm going to save that for later, maybe post-dinner. But I did follow through on my other promise, which you'll see a little bit later in the presentation. So today we're going to talk about programmatic optimization, why it's important, and how you get from very simplistic optimization, the crawl, all the way to more advanced strategies where you're really running. By way of introduction, Beeswax is a next-gen programmatic buying platform really oriented towards sophisticated buyers that want to take complete ownership of their programmatic buying. And by way of a personal introduction, I'm the head of enterprise over there. Previously, I was part of the Luchs team, acquired into Oracle, and helped start the Oracle Data Cloud, which is now way too big of an entity after a lot of acquisitions. And before that, I was running a trading desk, so I actually got the opportunity to use a lot of the programmatic buying platforms. And then before that, I was brand side at the NFL, so got a little perspective from a variety of different angles. So let's dive in here. Setting some context, programmatic continues to grow. So 4 in 5 digital display dollars are being transacted programmatically today, and it's a $19 billion market that continues to grow. Now, the reason that optimization becomes so important here is because with more channels, more publishers, more connection points than ever, having the right optimization strategies to be able to effectively utilize this growth is extremely important. So the interesting thing is that if you actually ask typical DSP buyers what the most important components are, optimization kind of falls to a sad number 4 here. So audience scale and reach is far and away number 1, followed by targeting capabilities, reporting, then optimization is in that 4 slot. Now the thing that I think is really interesting about this is that when you consider how a lot of these elements interact, optimization can actually have a very significant impact on several of these other elements. So for any buyers in the room, do you know what your average bid rates or win rates are in the programmatic ecosystem? Raise your hand if you actually know those stats. All right, so we got a few folks. That's great. So if you think about, let's just take number 1, audience scale and reach. One of the biggest elements that impacts your ability to address your consumers and get that maximum addressable reach is having the right bidding strategies and being able to optimize your bid rates, optimize your win rates, so that you really can achieve those outcomes. And as we go through this presentation today, we'll talk a little bit about how you can actually enable that. So in addition to the elements that I just talked about previously, why should brands care about optimization? Well, the reality is that for brands, or any buyer for that matter, your goals are bigger than just click-through rate, video completion rate, viewability. You're trying to drive a very specific outcome in a lot of cases. And using tools that kind of simplify or limit your ability to drive those very specific outcomes just isn't a great strategy in this modern and complex era. So let's quickly talk about the key pillars of successful optimization. So these actually very closely mirror a lot of the triumvirate of factors that we often see being most important for folks in housing as well. So there's a little bit of a parallel here. But number 1 is strategy. Define the metric that you're actually going after. For a while, you might have been optimizing towards upper funnel things like clicks, video completion, viewability. But the reality is that maybe you're a CPG, and your real goal is to drive offline sales. Then you talk about resources. Well, this is one of the hardest parts. Everyone here knows that when you're fighting for a head count or you're trying to make organizational change, this can require a lot of effort and a lot of energy, and sometimes you just want to go hang out in Tahoe instead of fighting 18 battles to get what you want. And then from a technology standpoint, you have to pick the right tech vendor. For some people that have a lot of resources in-house, you might be able to use a more complex vendor. If your resources are a bit more strapped, then you might be in a position where you have to rely on a third party or your vendor to do some of that legwork for you. So the crawl, walk, run model to programmatic optimization. We're going to talk about a few different flavors of optimization and how it actually works here, and then some of the pros and cons. So I did follow through on my promise to insert emojis into the presentation for those who were at dinner with me last night. So the crawl is out-of-the-box optimization. So this is really effective for upper funnel metrics like CTR, VCR, viewability, and so forth. All of these different brands can use an out-of-the-box CTR, VCR algorithm and experience success. And there's a couple reasons. One, because those metrics are very non-specific. They don't have a very kind of nuanced nature that's very specific to McDonald's. Like a click is a click, a video view is a video view. I don't want to simplify it quite that much, but at the end of the day, it's very upper funnel. The other reason is because of statistical significance. So there's just so many, like video completion rates, the average is like 70%. Click-through rates, the average is 0.1%. Viewability, I think the average is, well, should be higher, but I think it's about 55% at this point. So there's a lot of data points to be able to optimize on there. So you actually can develop a pretty solid algorithm to optimize towards these metrics without really doing a lot of customization. So the pros are it's easy, it's very effective for upper funnel. The cons are that when you're trying to optimize towards more involved metrics, this can be a little bit tricky. When you're trying to get visibility into the underlying decisioning, why are these decisions being made? Why am I bidding this much? Why am I paying this much or this little? It's just a little unpredictable. You don't have control over these out-of-the-box optimization algorithms. Someone else builds that, someone else maintains that, you pick it from a drop-down. So then we get to walk. So this is where you get to actually insert some intelligence into the optimization framework. So if, say, you have very specific intelligence around what demos are most important, what geos are most important, what domains are most important, you have the opportunity to actually modify the algorithm according to the business outcomes you're trying to drive and the specific nature of your audiences and your business. So this is where maybe you're trying to drive cost per lead, cost per acquisition. Maybe that's your metric. McDonald's can say, these types of devices are most important to us. Walmart can say, these audiences are most important to us. Ford can say, these geos are most important to us. And they can actually influence the algorithm to try and get more tailored towards what they're really trying to drive. So the pros are you get this improved bidding granularity, and then it's more tailored towards your true business outcomes. Now the cons is it requires a little bit more work. And as you kind of crawl, walk, run, you'll notice that more work can be required. And then there's a limited number of unique combinations. So bid modifiers, programmable bidders, things like that, you're still working in someone else's framework. So the run model, true custom optimization, complete ownership of the optimization model, allowing you to pinpoint your very specific business outcomes. So for instance, each one of these marketers listed here has very, very different business outcomes they're trying to drive. Walmart might be focused on average order value. HBO might be focused on complete season viewership. McDonald's is focused on Big Mac sales. It's a very high margin burger, so they want to optimize towards that. But the reality is that each one of these brands has a very specific business outcome that they are trying to drive. And so when they get the opportunity to take complete ownership of the bidding and optimization strategy, that allows them to pinpoint that metric as opposed to optimizing towards proxy metrics, which might inevitably end up getting them where they want to go. So pros, complete control, improved ROAS. Cons, does take some effort, sometimes a not insignificant amount of effort, and you might need very specific resources like data science to get there. So this is sales pitch time. So unsurprisingly, Beeswax enables all three of these different optimization types. We have out-of-the-box optimization models, which we call HexBid. We have a bid modifier framework that allows you to score any targeting variable within the ecosystem, whether it is geo, demo, or even user-level scoring or domain-level scoring. And then we also have this concept called a bidding agent, which actually allows us to do an external call-out to someone else's, any customer's infrastructure, where we'll actually send the OpenRTB request to them, and then they can evaluate that and decide exactly how much that impression is worth to them. All right, back out of sales pitch mode. So what are the 3 stages to kind of achieving the programmatic holy grail? Well, 1 is start by gathering and understanding the data. 2 is adjust levers to improve performance. And then 3 is inevitably automate it. So 1, just launch some campaigns, gather some data, hopefully log level data, and get an understanding of how this stuff works. And once you understand what data points are most important for driving performance, then you can start to adjust levers and insert your own intelligence there. So leveraging things like bid modifiers, bid factors, there are a few different platforms that offer something like this, allows you to, again, increase that specificity, assess the impact of those customizations, and then refine manually over time. Now, a lot of people that we've seen kind of trying to take ownership of optimization stop here, but if it's important for you to take complete ownership, this is where you can automate performance. And this really is the holy grail, right? Being able to continue to improve performance and break through those performance ceilings you might have seen in the past, and more importantly, automate the data feedback loop and the decisioning so that this thing just runs on its own, and you just have some very highly skilled labor turning some knobs and tweaking some things on top. So we've got our awesome little trophy emoji here, but the Holy Grail, I don't need to read it. So that's my presentation. We left a few minutes for questions at the end, so if anybody does want to chime in with anything or ask how certain folks are doing it, feel free to ask now, or if you want to find myself or Val, my colleague, later, we're happy to talk about specific use cases we've seen where folks have taken ownership of their optimization and the outcomes they've been able to drive there. All right. Thanks, folks.
All right, Joe, thank you very much. Any questions for this man while we have him? And like I say, we do have time over the next couple of days to rally and get more information. There's a gentleman over there. We'll take this. High altitude running. Hang on with me. Actually, throughout the conference, when you do ask questions, let us know who you are and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Lee Elliott from VaynerMedia. How many of the 1,000 largest digital spenders do you think are really resourced and otherwise equipped to run directly on their own?
Well, I would say that right now, probably about 60% of the market is in the crawl phase. They're not equipped to insert their own levels of intelligence, pull these levers on their own, and it's really, really great for them to partner with folks that have smart optimization out of the box. I'd say there's probably about 30% of the market that's certainly capable of leveraging bid modifiers to accelerate their performance in a pretty significant way. And then there's probably about 10% of the market that actually could apply data science and actually start to kind of build their own technology in-house to apply those optimizations. Now, we're seeing the market evolve rather significantly for a few reasons. One, people just want more transparency and control. So that's kind of driving this in-house trend we're seeing, but it's also shaking up a lot of the kind of predominant vendors. So for instance, we've seen Google and the Trade Desk take a lot of market share, and some of the folks that operated in a little bit more of a black box fashion historically have lost out. And then from kind of an optimization standpoint, the tools are just getting easier and easier to use. So when we first came to market, it was basically use our out-of-the-box optimization or use an external call-out custom algorithm. It's a little bit of a gap in between there. So with more and more folks allowing things like bid modification, bid factoring, two-factor bid modification, where you can actually insert combinations directly into a user interface, it's becoming easier and easier to the point where you can actually insert or effectively have a custom algorithm without even necessarily having a data scientist. You could actually just have a really sharp ops team that has a great reporting pipeline, looks at that data on a daily or weekly basis, and then spits out factors based on that make a lot of sense for their business.
Okay, anyone else? And if not, Joe, where